Darcie Wells knows the importance of support when you're going through a tough time. She's the leader of CanCare, an organization that's open to all people who are experiencing any kind of cancer and who sets up someone to walk alongside you during that time. This 36-year-old organization has been a vital part of the cancer resources in Houston, and now she's going nationwide. Listen to Darcie talk about no matter what kind of cancer you're facing, you need to have a survivor by your side.
When you subscribe to our show, you help us grow. Someone you know may need to hear this story, so please share with your family and friends. And consider supporting our mission. Your donation can help save the life of an uninsured woman. Let's talk about your breast. A different kind of podcast presented to you by The Rose, a breast center of excellence and a Texas treasure. You're going to hear frank discussions about tough topics, and you're going to learn why knowing about your breast could save your life. Tell us a little bit about Darcie. I know you have a very interesting background and a lot of nonprofit experience, but I don't think that's where you started.
That is true. Well, the most important thing about me is I'm a mom of two amazing boys, so I have to give them a shout out.
Of course.
14 and 11, can't believe. And a wonderful husband. So that defines me at the core. But you're right. I stumbled into the nonprofit world. I did not realize when I was going through school that you could have a nonprofit career. It's just not something they really talked about. So I was going to school to be an HR leader, an HR executive. Got my undergraduate degree in HR, and then moved out to Houston. I'm originally from Louisiana. Moved out to Houston to take my first job in HR, and then was really told that for career progression, I needed to get an MBA. So I started working on my MBA at the University of Houston. At the time, the College of Business Administration. They were going through, they had just received the $40 million gift from Ted Bauer to name it the Bauer College of Business. So I got the opportunity to meet Mr. Bauer, to work in a class to kind of help position the new college, the name change and everything, to the Bauer College of Business. And I just got sucked in to this world. And the associate dean over there at the time said, I think I'm looking for a development director, and I think you'd be great. And I said, well, what's a development director? I had no idea about anything nonprofit, and that's really where my career trajectory in the last 25 years turned, is in that moment.
And so tell me the different nonprofits you've been with.
So I started out with the University of Houston, was there for 8 years as the director of marketing for the university system, and as well as a director of development for the School of Business. Then I went to the March of Dimes, where I spent 12 years as the state director over the state of Texas for the March of Dimes. And then I've been here at CanCare now for a little over 4 years now.
And what attracted you to CanCare?
So over the last 10 years, my mother, my stepfather, and my grandmother all faced cancer. So it was just something we were living with, kind of one diagnosis after the other. And so when I got a call from two different girlfriends who didn't even know one another, who said, there's this opportunity for President and CEO of CanCare. You need to take a look at this. And so, immediately I was like, well, this is a sign. I need to look into this. I didn't know CanCare. I just really didn't know the mission. So on their prompting, I looked into the organization, and I just kind of felt this pull of, with what my family's going through, with where I'm at in my professional career, really ready to take on a challenge to grow an organization, this may be exactly it for me. And then once I met the board and heard their vision, I just kind of fell in love. And it's an incredible opportunity for me personally and professionally to lead a mission I care about and to be entrepreneurial and visionary. And that's what really attracted me to the opportunity with CanCare.
So I don't want to lose that thought because so few people see nonprofits as that. And that's exactly what we have to be or we don't stay alive.
That's right.
It's even more, we're not making widgets.
That's right.
We are impacting lives. And how do you measure that and how do you grow that? I just think there's a
there's a real need for people to understand that nonprofits require even more talent than the for-profit world.
Almost require more of an entrepreneurial grit and spirit. I equate what I do much more to an entrepreneurial landscape than anything else because you have to be willing to fail, willing to take some risks. You're often operating on little resources that you have to do big things with. And so I think it takes much more of an entrepreneurial mindset than a traditional, maybe nonprofit, what you would think of a nonprofit mindset.
And I love that you said taking risks because our risk can really impact the organization in different ways. But if we don't take them,
how are you going to grow?
We're not going to grow.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell us about CanCare.
Yes. So we're turning 35 next spring. I can't believe it. It's really amazing. And we're really about the emotional support side of the cancer journey. So we match someone who is newly diagnosed with cancer or their family members with a survivor by their side. So, for instance, if someone comes to us with a particular type of breast cancer diagnosis, then we're going to match them with a volunteer survivor that had that exact same breast cancer diagnosis, same treatment, same stage of life, so that they have someone they can truly relate to talk about the things that maybe they can't talk completely to their family and friends about because they don't quite understand, to be a confidential shoulder they can cry on, who truly understands and has walked that path. And so we believe the emotional side of support for cancer is critical. I mean, academic studies have even shown that people who feel and have emotional support during the cancer journey have better health outcomes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's really the space, that we fill.
But I think so many people think, well, if you've had cancer, anyone can be by your side. And I the Rose is only 3 years older than CanCare. And I remember in those early days how important it was that when we'd go into a support group, everybody understood cancer is different for everyone.
Yes.
And if someone had this, it doesn't mean that you have to have it, or because you're not getting it means that your survival will be less.
Right.
And I think that's just brilliant to really connect people who've had the same experience. There's 17 different kind of cancers in the breast.
Right.
I mean, it's one of the organs that can go many different ways. And it all depends on age.
That's right.
If you've had children, big deal. And the woman who is in her 50s that has it, very different experience than the woman in her 30s.
Yes.
So that is really important. And I think what you're doing by lining it up gives that cancer, the person going through cancer at that time, a whole different approach. It's almost like a whole different resource.
Absolutely.
You're not going to get that from your physician. No. And many times you don't get it in support groups. I don't know if it changed for you, but in 2020, oh my gosh, all our support groups ended in person. In fact, our only one that survived in person was our Spanish speaking.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? But I do know that after folks could not connect and they went into the virtual, many of them found even more support, but so many would have told me, we just kind of suffered through. So thank goodness
COVID
for
was
you.
a complete changing point for our organization. We, prior to COVID, were really about matching people in physically the same space, right? Because, meeting over a cup of coffee, being able to, give that person a hug. And COVID shifted everything for us. We had to change and evolve because we couldn't have that kind of interpersonal connection. And I think there's also, from an organizational standpoint, there was some resistance to doing some things online that we were forced then to do in COVID, and it truly transformed the organization. We went from being, a Houston-based organization serving primarily Houston to a national organization practically overnight.
Wow.
During COVID. Now we have served clients in all 50 states. We have volunteers in 28 states. And we were afraid of the loss of that interpersonal connection. But if it's the right person and the right connection, that means more oftentimes than proximity. but we still give the option to our clients to, if proximity is the most important thing, then we'll give you, the right match that's here in town or wherever you are. But it's just really changed the trajectory of our organization and allowing us to serve more people.
So, Darcie, how do you do that? I mean, do people, I really don't know. Do they fill out a survey? Do they tell you everything that's going on and your experts connect, or how does that happen?
So there's what I call a current state and a future state, or a tomorrow state, which I'll share with you too. So currently, someone who's needing support will fill out a confidential form on our website, give us details about their cancer journey and what they're specifically looking for. And then we have a volunteer database that has those same type of factors in our volunteer database. And then our team really matches up the best people and puts them in contact with one another. Our tomorrow state, which we're going to be launching a new system called CanCare Connect this fall, is going to give our clients a lot more empowerment in their journey. They can choose whether or not they want CanCare to make that connection for them, or they're going to be able to see, based on criteria they've put into their story, their best matches on the screen, and they can say, you know what, I think I want to match with Dorothy, and it'll ping Dorothy and say, Dorothy, Darcie would like to connect with you. Really? So it's so exciting.
Yes.
Again, I think prior to COVID, we would never have even imagined these kinds of things being possible. But it's just going to give more options to our clients to be able to choose what's most meaningful to them. Instead of us saying, well, we know cancer type is most important, age, but what if our client is a mom with young kids and doesn't tell us that, but sees a mom, a story of a mom that had young kids, and she says, maybe it's not quite the exact cancer match, but that's the person I want to talk to. We want to empower that to happen.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we're super excited.
So what if someone says, I don't know what I need?
Then we'll match based on kind of more traditional criteria and give a weighting to the cancer type, the stage, the treatment type, and those types of things. And then after they get connected with their volunteer and have a relationship with them, we come back to them and we say, how's it going? Do you need something else? Do you want to get matched with someone else? Because maybe it was a great match for the diagnosis, but they want to talk to someone who had this kind of treatment. So we'll rematch them based on, what they're looking for.
So now tell me how many people you normally have in your client base, not client base, but patient base?
Yeah, so right now our volunteers who are survivors and caregiver volunteers, we have a little over 500 of those who are actually doing the support. Wow. And then last year we had almost 1,600 clients in our one-on-one support program that we matched up.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
And then we also have a hospital visitation program. So we have our volunteers in different hospitals like Houston Methodist, Memorial Hermann, oncology consultants. That group of volunteers saw over 10,000 patients last year, just kind of in that hospital setting.
Are they just going in at the time they're having treatment, or?
Generally, they're in the infusion centers, they're in the radiation centers, and as people are in there coming in for their treatments, they say, hey, I just want to introduce, myself. I'm a survivor. If there's anything I can, do to talk with you, if you'd like to talk with me, I'm here for you. So it's different in that it's not that custom one-on-one match of the cancer type, but it's just that physical, seeing that survivor by your side, that physical, message of hope in a time when you need that hope there.
And it's not someone in a white jacket.
That's right.
And it's not someone that will tell you words that you've never heard before.
Right.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
It's someone that's coming from a place of heart and empathy and who's been where you are sitting.
So, how do you pick these people? I mean, I know there was a time you went through training.
Oh, yeah.
Still go through
we
training?
We still have a pretty intensive training. It's evolved because it used to be an in-person 3 days in a Houston hotel, ballroom. Now we're doing all of that online. Which is really incredible. Our training is designed by mental health professionals and has always been led by a committee of mental health professionals. And I think there was a lot of skepticism about the ability to have the same impact and have the same level of effectiveness of training moving online. So COVID forced that to happen. And then even our mental health professionals said, wow, we're even having to use this in our own practices. And you can really still have that emotional connection there. It's different, but it's still very rich. And so our training is a lot of role plays. It helps the survivors and caregivers process their own personal emotional experience from cancer, and then gives them the tools they need to help someone else process their emotional experience. So it's a lot of active listening. And
so sometimes people haven't even processed.
No.
How interesting.
And there are times when we'll tell a volunteer going through training that you're not quite ready. Give it some time. We require that our volunteers be 6 months out of treatment to allow for that time to have processed that. But not everybody's quite ready, and we need for them to be in a place where they can give back and they can be strong for their client.
I think we all think that, oh, well, I've been there. And there's a whole different way of approaching people. I always hate when I have an issue going on and someone says, well, let me tell you my story. And you're going, wait a minute, I haven't even told you mine.
Right.
And,
this is about me right now.
Right, it's about me. Well, and that is so important. I mean, there's times when it needs to be all about you.
Yeah.
It can't always be that other person that you're looking to for support.
That's right.
And it's not always the same exact story or journey or, so
We're
that's
careful
really
with our
important.
volunteers to say, this isn't about you in that moment. It's about them. The client's at the center. You're there to support them and help them articulate and process their own story. Now, if they ask you, well, how did you handle this? It's great to share that with them. But it's really about focusing on that client.
I can see that. So tell us about your podcast.
Oh,
How
my
long has
goodness.
it been going on? And
We're babies compared to you guys.
No.
It's incredible to see what you're doing. So we really wanted a way to share our message with the world.
was this your idea?
It was a moment in a conference I was at where they were talking about using podcasts, and I think I'd always had a little apprehension about, well, it's too complicated. I can't do it. I don't know what I'm doing, what have you. And they were just like, just do it. I'm like, fine. I just came back and I said, we're doing a podcast. I have no idea how we're doing it, but we're going to do it. So found a company to help coach us and guide us on launching it. But, the beautiful thing about CanCare is we just have rich, rich stories to tell. And talking about our mission and the emotional support side of cancer doesn't always click with people. It's what I don't get it.
Yeah.
But when you can listen to that story about how someone's been impacted by having that survivor by their side, it clicks. And so we knew that we wanted to really become more of a storytelling organization and really, make sure we're leaning on our stories to really explain who we are. And so the podcast was born. We just launched it during National Cancer Survivorship Month in June. So we're on our ninth episode now, but it's amazing. It's fun. We've reached all over the world already with this podcast. Yeah. And what a gift it is to just invite people in to share their heart and their story. So it's called Hope in the Face of Cancer. And it's about sharing real stories of people who have faced cancer and the hopeful messages.
Powerful, the ones that I've listened to.
Thank you.
And I can imagine that with so many volunteers. How do you select who's going to be on your show?
It's certainly difficult, and we're we're just ramping up. We have a lot to learn from folks like you, but we've had volunteers especially share stories and testimonials, and clients too. So we do a lot of surveying. We are very focused on the quality of the experience between our clients and volunteers. Right. So we started with those surveys that we got and the quotes people would give us, and we say, "Wow, that's a really rich story. Let's reach out to them and see if they'd be willing to have a conversation with us on our podcast." And that's kind of how we've started.
Well, and that's the way you do it.
Yeah.
It'll be that next patient or that next person that's used your services, yes.
And then we'll have folks like you. I'm excited to have you on our podcast next month for Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
It is our pleasure, our honor, really, to be on that. I just think your leadership style is so different. How would you describe it? I mean, you've brought many good ideas, new ideas, to March of Dimes, and now to CanCare. How would you describe your leadership?
two words that just came in mind when you asked that question were humble and authentic. I think especially going into the role at CanCare, I think people don't realize how running, especially a small nonprofit, requires so many different
Darcie,
skills.
there's nothing small about 500 volunteers and 1,600 people you're
compared
touching.
to being, coming from a national nonprofit,
yes,
where
yes.
you've got armies of people and departments doing different things and specializing in different things. When you come into the CEO of a smaller nonprofit, you have to wear many different hats.
Mm-hmm.
You're somewhat a master of all things, expert in none kind of thing. And it is humbling because you have to learn to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you in every aspect of the business. Be humble enough to listen, get really great advice, and then be bold enough to take some risks, but under great counsel. Mm-hmm. So I think that humility has served me well in my role at CanCare. And it's just humbling to serve this mission. Every single day. And if I lead with heart, and if my volunteers and my staff know my heart, my intentions, and my humility, we will all come together and do great work together.
Yeah, I always tell my employees, especially my new ones, I say, now, it's all the decisions are made right here. The rose is the rose. And I said, we're not associated with any national group. We're not associated with a hospital. We are us. I said, the bad thing about the rose is it is just the rose.
Just
we have to make it. And,
you got to figure it out.
Yeah, we've got to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, but it's so true. Sometimes you have to be able to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to listen to others and be willing to go along with what they know and try to see how you can pull out the best in everyone. I always think our employees come to work with the intent of doing the very best job they can. And it's up to me to make the systems work, which they never do, or, whatever it is. So,
support them in whatever way. It's amazing what our team and people are capable of when they're given the encouragement and support, to do it.
The rewards. Mm-hmm. I mean, I bet every single day you give thanks that you're there.
Oh, my goodness. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a blessing to work for this mission. It's a blessing to come to work every day for a mission. It's something I just didn't realize. I mentioned earlier that I never realized that you could, I'm a business person at heart, I'm an entrepreneurial person at heart, that I could apply that to a mission, to something that matters. Right. I would love young people to really hear and understand that, exercising all your gifts and skills, but doing it toward a mission that matters. I mean, growing the next leader, generation of nonprofit leaders.
I think that's what you ought to be doing. Why don't you pick that up on the side?
Right, have another podcast.
But no, honestly, this is something, when you go and take the nonprofit courses, you learn about how you present your finances. Yeah. You learn about the rules you're going to follow, which are a lot more than many businesses.
Oh, absolutely.
But we never hear that part of, this is more than a career, it's life work.
That's right.
That's
right. Every opportunity I have to go speak to students, MBA students, business students, or any students, I take it, because I don't think people can see that, wow, you can have both of those things. Yes, it's hard, but it's fulfilling. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Freddie had me do a podcast one time, Freddie's our producer, about, what was hard and what were some of the challenges we had. And I did that, and then I realized, even with all the things, there's never been a day I don't love the rose. Never been a day,
Yeah.
So that's when you know what you're doing is what you should be doing.
It matters. And all that effort is toward something beautiful.
So with all the stories you've heard from cancer survivors, what's one of your favorites, or two of your favorites?
Oh gosh, I mean, they're all so. You said it a minute ago. No one's cancer journey is the same. So the stories are just all so different and so impactful. I think the one that pops in my mind the most was my most recent podcast interview, and it was a woman named Jennifer and her husband Lloyd, and I interviewed them together about their joint experience of what that was like, and she was just so raw about how broken she felt when she heard those words, how hopeless she felt. And then I could just feel this emotion. She said, and this woman came in the room, and she put her hand on my arm, and she said, I've survived this twice. You can do this. And that was a CanCare volunteer. And she said, it just changed everything for me. And I get the chills, thinking about it. And that's just what it's all about. Hope through a survivor by your side. And so it was just a powerful moment. Then she's turned into a volunteer. Now she's serving clients and giving hope. And just that story of how it all comes full circle is just awesome.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it you hope for the future with CanCare? I heard just tomorrow.
Yeah.
But what is your ultimate dream?
We don't want anyone facing cancer to ever go through it alone. That's a big, hairy, audacious goal, and we're only skimming the surface of the possibility of reaching everyone who needs us. Our board, our organization, we've all been touched by cancer in some way and have just this hunger to make sure that anybody who faces cancer has that comfort of the survivor by your side. So we want to touch as many lives as we can. That's our, that's really our goal. We want to be seen as the leader in emotional and peer-to-peer emotional support in this country, and to set a model for others, because we can't do it alone. We have to all do it together.
I know. That's what's so important is we've got to find our partners, collaborators. This is a big job.
Yeah.
Cancer is too tough.
That's right.
And I love that survivor by your side. That just struck me when I was reading about you and the organization even more. We've known about CanCare, but our organizations are very far apart geographically. Yeah. And it always seemed like we never could connect. And, and we're small too, honestly. But always knew about all the great work that y'all did.
I think that's the other part of the vision is, recognizing that it is going to take us all coming together in community to support cancer patients. We can't do it alone. You can't do it alone, what have you. And building those partnerships. I was just upstairs talking to your team about, okay, how can we serve you? We have over half of our volunteer population are breast cancer survivors. We want to support people walking through your doors and getting services from you with a survivor by their side. How do we make that happen? And just in a few minutes, we kind of worked out the logistics of how to make that happen. And I'm like, amen, that's wonderful.
That's
partnerships,
wonderful.
Collaborations is the only way that, we can get that done. So I'm glad that the podcast kind of helped prompt us coming together and really working out, how can we be of service.
And, as I didn't even know how it came up on my feed. But I thought, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. And I think that's another thing we as leaders need to really encourage others to get into. This is not going away. Yeah. And this is a great medium, a great way of reaching people. And you don't have to be perfect. And you don't have to, we're just having conversations.
That's right.
And isn't that what the world is about?
That's right.
Coming together and talking. I really think we have a new world ahead. I hope we do.
Yeah.
That's much more loving and supporting.
Collaborative.
Yes. That's my dream too.
Absolutely. I love this. Well, thank you for what you're doing here with this podcast and just giving us the opportunity to work together and to share our story.
Yeah. What is it you wish for your children?
Oh, my goodness. They're so wonderful and goofy right now. We're going through those awkward middle-age stages right now. I want them to know how loved they are. I think more than anything, I think if they can do anything they want, if they just know how loved they are and how cherished they are. I hadn't. That's the first thing that came into my mind.
That is great.
That's my heart. They can do anything if they have a grounding in love.
Right. It doesn't matter what they do.
Yeah, that's right.
Just as long as they know they're loved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. I don't think we could ever get too old for that.
No. And I hope they don't ever get too old for hugs. Or right now they'll still hug, which is wonderful. But I rue the day that
they come back. Believe me,
They have that little period, but they come back.
I sure hope
For
so.
sure.
It's such a delight. Right now we're in the learning instruments stage, and so it is entertaining at our house. Yeah, lots of squeaks and honks.
Yes. I was thinking that's so charitable of you.
Right, exactly. Oh, my goodness.
Well,
So,
Darcie, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming and sharing all this information about CanCare, a wonderful organization
Thank you.
that anyone can access.
That's right.
And it doesn't matter what kind of cancer.
That's right.
Right.
All types of
You
cancer
will
and caregivers as well.
Yes, and
Yeah.
caregivers. You will find someone that they
That's
can
right.
have by their side.
You got it.
Right.
All right.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today on Let's Talk About Your Breasts. This podcast is produced by Speak Podcasting and brought to you by The Rose. Visit therose.org to learn more about our organization. Subscribe to our podcast, share episodes with friends, and join the conversation on social media using hashtag Let's Talk About Your Breasts. We welcome your feedback and suggestions. Consider supporting The Rose. Your gift can make the difference to a person in need. And remember, self-care is not selfish. It's essential.